In the sprawling landscape of peer-to-peer file sharing that dominated the early 2000s, most Western users gravitated toward familiar names like Kazaa, LimeWire, or BitTorrent. But halfway across the world in Japan, a small development team was crafting what would become one of the most elegant yet tragically overlooked P2P clients of the era. Cabos, launched in 2004, represented the Japanese approach to Gnutella networking. Clean, efficient, and refreshingly free of the bloatware and aggressive advertising that plagued its more popular competitors. Named after the Mexican resort city of Los Cabos, this software would spend over a decade serving a devoted but ultimately limited user base, proving that sometimes being the best isn't enough to guarantee survival in the cutthroat world of file-sharing technology. The story of Cabos begins with the Gnutella protocol, that decentralized network architecture that emerged in 2000 as one of the first truly distributed file-sharing systems. Unlike centralized services like the original Napster, Gnutella operated without a single point of failure, creating a mesh network where each user's computer served as both client and server. By 2004, when Cabos first appeared, the Gnutella network had evolved significantly from its bandwidth-hungry origins. The protocol had implemented ultra-peers and leaf nodes to create a more hierarchical structure that reduced network congestion while maintaining the decentralized philosophy that made it resistant to shutdown. Into this mature ecosystem stepped Cabos, developed by a Japanese team that saw an opportunity to create a cleaner, more user-friendly interface for accessing the vast libraries of content flowing through Gnutella's pipes. What immediately set Cabos apart from its competition was its remarkable simplicity and attention to user experience design. While LimeWire assaulted users with pop-up advertisements and BearShare bundled unwanted toolbars and spyware, Cabos presented a clean, intuitive interface that looked more like a native Mac or Windows application than the garish, ad-cluttered monstrosities that dominated the P2P landscape. The software featured a streamlined search function that returned results quickly and organized them intelligently, allowing users to filter by file type, size, and source quality. Downloads were managed through an elegant queue system that clearly displayed transfer speeds, progress, and estimated completion times. Perhaps most importantly, Cabos was completely free of advertisements, spyware, and bundled software, representing a philosophical commitment to user experience over monetization that would prove both its greatest strength and its fatal weakness. The technical architecture underlying Cabos demonstrated sophisticated engineering that rivaled and often exceeded its better-known competitors. The client implemented advanced features like automatic bandwidth management, which dynamically adjusted upload and download speeds based on network conditions and user preferences. It supported resume capabilities for interrupted downloads, partial file sharing that allowed other users to download completed segments while transfers were still in progress, and intelligent source switching that automatically found alternative sources when original providers went offline. The software also included robust filtering options that helped users avoid fake files and malware, a persistent problem on peer-to-peer networks. Advanced users could configure detailed firewall settings, adjust connection limits, and fine-tune network parameters through a comprehensive preferences panel that balanced accessibility with powerful customization options. Cabos found its primary audience among Japanese users who appreciated its clean design philosophy and reliable performance, but it also developed a passionate following among international users who discovered it through word-of-mouth recommendations on file-sharing forums and technology blogs. The software's user base peaked somewhere around 2006 to 2008, coinciding with the height of P2P file sharing before streaming services began to change consumer behavior. Unlike many of its competitors, Cabos maintained a relatively low profile, never achieving the massive user numbers of LimeWire, which at its peak claimed over 50 million monthly active users, or the cultural notoriety of Kazaa, which became synonymous with music piracy in the popular press. This smaller footprint was both a blessing and a curse. While it kept Cabos below the radar of aggressive legal campaigns targeting P2P software, it also meant the client lacked the network effects that made larger platforms more attractive to new users. The legal landscape surrounding P2P software during Cabos' operational years was treacherous and constantly shifting, creating an environment where even legitimate technological innovation carried enormous risks. The 2005 MGM Studios vs. Grokster Supreme Court decision fundamentally changed the rules of the game by establishing that companies could be held liable for copyright infringement if they actively encouraged users to share copyrighted material. This decision effectively ended the era of commercially backed P2P clients, as companies like Streamcast Networks and Grokster were forced to shut down their operations. Cabos, with its minimal commercial presence and lack of aggressive marketing encouraging piracy, managed to avoid the worst of these legal challenges, but the changing legal environment made it increasingly difficult to operate any P2P software openly. Major clients like Kazaa were forced to transition to legal, paid services, while others simply disappeared as their parent companies faced mounting legal pressure and financial liability. As the 2010s progressed, Cabos found itself fighting an increasingly difficult battle against changing user habits and technological obsolescence. The rise of streaming services like Spotify, Netflix, and YouTube fundamentally altered how people consumed digital media, reducing the demand for file-sharing software. Simultaneously, BitTorrent protocol clients like uTorrent and Views were capturing the remaining P2P market with superior performance for large file transfers and better support for new content distribution methods. The Gnutella network itself was declining as users migrated to other platforms, creating a vicious cycle where fewer available files made the network less attractive, which drove away more users, further reducing content availability. Mobile computing and smartphone adoption also worked against traditional P2P clients, which were designed for desktop computers with persistent internet connections and substantial local storage capacity. The development team behind Cabos struggled with the fundamental economic challenge that had plagued the software from its inception: how to sustain development of free software without advertising revenue or paid features. While competitors like LimeWire generated income through advertising partnerships and premium versions, Cabos remained committed to its ad-free philosophy, relying instead on voluntary donations from users. This noble approach proved financially unsustainable as the user base declined and development costs continued to accumulate. The software received increasingly infrequent updates, with new versions appearing months or years apart rather than the regular maintenance cycles required to keep pace with operating system changes and security requirements. By 2012, it became clear that Cabos was entering what software developers euphemistically call maintenance mode, receiving only critical bug fixes rather than new feature development. The final years of Cabos were marked by a gradual fade rather than a dramatic shutdown, reflecting the dignified approach the development team had taken throughout the software's lifecycle. Updates became increasingly rare after 2013, with the last significant release appearing in 2015 before development effectively ceased. Unlike the spectacular collapse of LimeWire, which was shut down by federal court injunction in 2010, or the corporate transformation of Kazaa into a legal music service, Cabos simply stopped evolving as its user base dwindled and its development team moved on to other projects. The software continued to function for users who had installed it, but without ongoing maintenance, it became increasingly incompatible with newer operating systems and vulnerable to security issues that would never be patched. The legacy of Cabos extends far beyond its limited commercial success, serving as a compelling case study in how superior technology and user experience design don't automatically translate to market dominance. The software proved that small development teams could create polished, feature-rich applications that rivaled products from well-funded corporations. But it also demonstrated the cruel economics of software development in markets where users expect free products. Cabos represented a road not taken in P2P software development, showing what the category might have looked like if it had prioritized user experience and ethical design over aggressive monetization and viral marketing. For the thousands of users who experienced its clean interface and reliable performance, Cabos remains a reminder of what peer-to-peer software could have been in a different world, one where quality and user respect were sufficient to ensure survival. In the end, this Japanese gem that never escaped its niche status stands as a testament to the often arbitrary nature of technological success, where timing, marketing, and luck can matter more than engineering excellence and user satisfaction.